first on our agenda this evening is we have the promotion of a police officer, Chief Smith.
So really, it's about an opportunity to introduce you to Scott Farmer. If you guys have not had an opportunity to meet him, but Scott Farmer has 19 years of police service altogether, but he was promoted as sergeant on Valentine's Day. What a sweet day. So February 14th of this year.
Oregon's birthday.
And Oregon State's birthday, right, 1859. So he started in Coos Bay, did several years there, Clackamas County after that, a couple of years, and he's been with Canby since 2002.
Yes.
And he brings with him a lot of experience. Prior to Canby, he was on a SWAT, or Tactical Response Team. He's also been a Defensive Tactics Coordinator, and with Canby for quite a few years, he's also been a field training officer for new recruits that are hired, and he has done an excellent job in that capacity. Since 2006, he's been a canine handler, and he had a dog, Patriot, for the first few years. In 2009, he got a new dog, which he still currently has, and the dog has been trained for tracking and apprehension, and that's what we use that dog for. Again, Scott's been here since 2009, 19 years of experience altogether. His wife is Naomi. And another kind of neat fact is his son, Alan. We started to get him involved in our reserve program, but was soon identified as a great candidate, and Oregon City snatched him up, and he's currently working as a police officer for Oregon City, and is currently at the academy right now.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to EPSSD.
Congratulations.
So it's continuing the family, so to speak. So with that, I just wanted to introduce again Scott Farmer, our newest sergeant, and promoted again here just last February here.
Awesome.
You have a speech?
I don't.
Speech. Everyone else gives a speech, Scott. No, you've been on the force a long time, and we appreciate it, and congratulations. You do a great job, and we're glad that we get to keep you and promote you within our ranks. So thank you for your service. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Chief. It's great. Communications, next on the agenda.
Other than an announcement that we just this week received notice that we were ranked number 7 in a recent analysis and scoring of Oregon cities as the 7th safest city in the state.
Perfect.
And still another
And the police
accolade
just
for
left.
the safe and healthy community that we have.
Definitely, people, home buyers looking at Canby take those things into consideration.
Yes, they do.
That's good. Excellent. Anything else on the communication front? No? All right. First opportunity this evening for citizen input and community announcements. Anything non-agenda related. If you had one of these yellow cards you want to fill out, you can do that and take it over to Kim, our city recorder. And the only one that I have tonight is Timothy Miller regarding Canby cleanup. Come on up, sir, and
So
let us know.
I'll introduce myself again.
Yeah.
Timothy Miller. I'm the program administrator for Rivers of Life Center. And I just wanted to invite you all to volunteer on our Celebrate Canby Enhancement Day. So we're partnering with Solve, which is Stop Oregon Litter and Vandalism, to clean up and bark and mulch your Main Street areas, about 2,000 feet of it. And it's going to be from 9 a.m. till 1 p.m. And then there will be a quartet afterwards singing about it. And we just hope that all of you could join us. Anybody, all of you, everyone, the whole city.
We will let everyone know.
I'll be there
Perfect. So 9:30 to 1 this Saturday.
this Saturday.
All right. And I'm sorry, you said spreading.
Bark.
Fantastic. I know people love doing that. So, well, it'll go quickly if we get enough wheelbarrows and shovels, then it'll move quickly. Well, thank you guys for putting this together and putting it on. Solve is a great organization. I've participated over the years at a couple of the beach cleanups, and they do a great job. And so this will be a great project. So, all right. I'm sure a number of us will try to get out there and be a part of it.
All right.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. All right, not having any other yellow cards, any other, no? I will take a moment to acknowledge that we do have a young group of scouts here in our audience, I'm assuming working on a merit badge of some sort. So if you guys picked before the meeting, I let them know that they were going to have to introduce the group and tell us what they were working on. So who's the guest speaker for the group? All right, come on up.
Okay, so we're Troop 790 from Oregon City, and we are working on the citizenship in the community merit badge.
Excellent. Do you want to introduce who's with you tonight?
I'm Demetrius, that's Coleman, that's Kyle, and I'm the leaders.
Excellent. All right.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Welcome. Thanks you guys for coming all the way from Oregon City. We're way more entertaining than the commissioners in Oregon City.
Actually not.
We're not. Well,
Nicer?
maybe nicer?
There we go.
Okay, nicer. All right. Well, I'll have to pop some popcorn and go watch one of their council meetings or commission meetings.
Commission. Dan
Turn
will,
down the volume from time to time.
Dan will correct.
So you're working on your community involvement badge?
The citizenship in the community.
Okay. And how many badges do you have in?
I'm not sure, but quite a few.
All right.
Okay.
And what level scout are you?
I'm a star, and I'm working on my life currently.
Oh, very good.
Congratulations. Well, Demetri,
Excellent.
thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for your
Good job.
citizenship.
Thank you.
Good work.
I will move into mayor's business. A couple of things. So I was remiss in our first meeting of the month to address what would have been upcoming, which is now here, Canby Cleanup Week. It has been an amazing amount of communication on social media channels about the Canby cleanup. So just for some clarification, and Joe is here to back me up if I speak out of school. So as the rules of Canby Cleanup Week work, if you take anything and you put it down at the curb, it's recycling or of trash, it does become the ownership of the disposal company. Now, if you, of your own free will, decide to remove that, put it back in your house, put it in the backyard, that's your call. It does become the property of, so in our case, Canby Disposal. So I had the opportunity, am I good there, Joe? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I had the opportunity to do a ride-along with Ray and Andy Cahoots. And so we went out around Canby to some of the areas that were upcoming pickups, so for tonight, as well as areas where they just went through today. And a couple of things that were, I think, interesting is too light of a word, but amazing was probably more fitting. So one of the houses that they left behind, it literally ran from one corner of their lot, lined up in the entire street, to the other corner of their lot. And I know, so talking with the Cahoots today, that they had sent out that it was going to be kind of the equivalent of a 5 trash barrel buckets, kind of equal. And so this was definitely over that, and it was materials that they really couldn't identify and didn't know. So they left it and offered to bring back a yard bin for the people to put that in. Another home, part of their pickup was 14 car seats. So now, here's the other piece about Canby Cleanup Week, is that it's supposed to be just items that are yours. Now, they very well may have used up 14 car seats. I'm not questioning that, but it was just one of the big problems that Cahoots experiences with this week is that it's not just Canby residents, it's people from outside Canby bringing in items to be disposed of and dropping them off at people's front yards in the middle of the night, so that they're there first thing in the morning when Canby Disposal goes out. So a couple of the issues that they wanted to talk about and share with me as we drove around today. They will, so Kim will work on it, but they do want to get on our agenda maybe for July or maybe as August. I know July is a little interesting with some scheduling and whatnot, but to present to us kind of some of the pieces that they've seen over the last couple of years and kind of where the program is at and ways that they're looking and thinking about maybe enhancing it to try to maybe prevent some of the I called it harvesting today that goes on. Like as I
It
was
is entertaining.
well, I used to kid about when I first moved here. I had no idea what it was about.
Pilfering.
But then, it became somewhat humorous to sit in my lawn chair in the front yard and watch on my trash night the cars circle the neighborhood looking for. In fact, tonight I was coming out of my house to go to council, and there was a number of cars already going up our street, and we don't do trash until Thursday night. So, which leads to one of the pieces they brought up was that there are items being taken by the harvesters that are not necessarily part of the trash pile. Like we've seen, they've had Cahoots has had calls in about basketball hoops being taken. Actually, people's personal property closer to their home is being taken. So people are getting bold enough to not just address the stuff that's in the street, but also then going up to people's houses in the middle of the night. They're leaving trash as they rifle through looking for things. They're leaving trash all over the street. So, no, we just had our police department here. We're not going to allocate police to cruise the streets at night to watch this. We don't have the police force to do that. But just to be aware, either wait until the next morning or just be cognizant of that this stuff is going on. And that Cahoots is aware of it, and that's what we're going to hear probably when they come back around to us to talk about it. So, like I said, it was pretty interesting ride along today. So on the C4 front,
Mayor, if I may add, though,
Yes.
if there is an instance where people are actually taking stuff from your property, feel free to call the police and make a report of it.
yes, thanks, Joe.
Because we will respond
Yes.
to that sort of thing. The cleanup, the recycles belong to the recycling company if they're left out on the curb, unless the owner decides to take them back, as we discussed. And so it really shouldn't, nobody should be rifling through them and making, a trashy mess on your property. It does seem to be a little bit more intelligent to maybe reserve, if you're going to leave a bunch of stuff out, to wait till the very morning if you can.
Right.
But certainly if somebody takes something from your property, feel free to call the police, and please do, because we want to know where problems sprout up, and we want to be able to catch bad guys. So.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
The KU does this in all the communities that they're in, but they do it at a tremendous expense that they take on. And so what they recycle and are able to take in and then turn around and sell back helps to offset that cost. And they still do this at somewhat of a loss. I mean, it's worked into our rates. They take it through the recycling piece that comes in, but it's still a cost. So, I get it, but it was amazing to see the amount of, wood boards that were out on the curb, and, couches that looked still somewhat decent. And I know that we've got Kiwanis Group, and we've got Goodwill here. We've got, there's Veterans Group that will go around and pick those items up before this week if you just make a phone call. So they are working on, I think last year and this year, they have seen more larger items than in years past. And so they're looking at things to try to improve it and try to make it so that that's not such a big piece. But they run certain, we were talking about, Council President Dale and I were talking about today, but there's certain parts of town that what takes them all day to cover like a small section of town, they can cover almost 400 other houses. So it varies from neighborhood to neighborhood on what's being collected and how long it takes. But they add extra staff and extra trucks, and it's a big process. But just keep that in mind this week as you're piling your stuff, that if it's organized and it's not a tangled puzzle, it might actually get picked up. On a Clackamas County Coordinating Committee, C4 front, our last meeting we had an extensive conversation as a group about housing, definitions of housing, what different communities are being faced with and working on, which is the executive committee that sets future agendas, as well as the retreat that we have coming up, which I'm part of that as co-chair, has made the housing conversation a bigger conversation for the retreat coming up. So stay tuned for that piece. So our retreat's here in June, and it's half-day Friday and almost all of Saturday. So we're going to take on two lighter topics, housing and transportation. So so that should be, very interesting. Is it your birthday? I'll make sure they have a cake for you.
Thank you.
Last week had a meeting with Canby Area Park and Rec District. They had Capert had a meeting just kind of talking about where they're at and some future pieces of Capert. And then one of the pieces that they're looking at is possibly shrinking of the Capert district down to a little bit larger than city limits. And I think we left the conversation that they were going to be having some dialogue as a board. And we're going to have some dialogue as a council here next Friday as part of our day-long retreat to talk about parks and whatnot, and that will be some of the conversation about Capert or what we are looking at as a city in terms of regards to that. So it was a real interesting conversation on where Capert is at and what they're wanting to do. I believe they're Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm remembering correctly, November they're looking to do, they're trying to have maybe present shrinking the district down in November.
I think that the shrinking the district, if I remember right, is an action that the county commissioners can take. The larger question is whether they would be in a position, if they were successful in doing that, in going to the ballot with the tax question. And I don't think that from a practical perspective, they will, even if they're successful in shrinking the district, that they'll be in a position yet to have defined the types of programs they'll be funding or would propose to fund as part of a tax initiative. So I think that they may get part of the process done, but I doubt that they'll get to that goal line.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, that was a piece of being able to. So what they're looking at is, so right now, Canby Area Park and Rec District has been around for quite some time, and their boundary has been Canby School District. So they're looking to kind of shrink that down to be just, it's the city limits plus what we have in what's called the urban reserve lands around the city is what they're looking to shrink it down to. And to do that, they need to go to and through the Board of County Commissioners. So that's something that group is discussing and talking about. Yes.
I just thought maybe for the viewing audience, for a point of clarification, that there is a lot of confusion that the Canby Area Parks and Rec District is not part of the city. It is its own elected board and its own entity. Correct. Not affiliated with the city.
Thank you for that clarification. That is correct. Also had a meeting with our city manager and the Hanlon Group, talking about the development project that we're working on. It was a great meeting. It was a great meeting with them, and definitely a very strong passion for Canby and wanting to be involved. So it was really great to meet with them and see that behind our project. Meeting today with city manager and with council president Dale about our retreat next Friday. It's going to be heavy on parks conversation. Superintendent Goodall's going to be joining us for some of that conversation, and then housing. And that's going to be, if there's time left over, we'll pepper in some additional items, but that could be the bulk of our day. Rick's got some things very well organized, and I think it's going to be a really good conversation for us to have kind of moving forward. So that concludes what I have, and we'll move down to the end of the table there with Councilor Rocha.
I do not have anything. I was supposed to have Parks and Rec last night, but it was canceled, so I do not have anything to report.
Fantastic. All right.
How's the weather in Belize?
Councilor Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. Two quick things. In the Main Street area and economic development, we are working on an updated retail market analysis. We did this several years ago, and those things do go out of date. And so we're going to freshen it up, have a consultant coming in and looking at the scope and methodology. but when that first came out a couple of years ago, it was really helpful for us to zero in on the type of businesses that not only we would want, but that would fit here. So it's a sophisticated tool, and I'm glad that we're moving ahead on it. Also on our agenda tonight, we'll see a change for the Historic Review Committee. Let me just say how lucky we are to have the people on this committee. I often think that it's not the people up here that make a difference in the city, that it's folks like this that are on this. It's amazing. One thing that they are working on, their next project, is a heritage trail with plaques around the city showing the buildings that we walk by every day, what the history is of that. It's kind of hard to appreciate the history of a city if you have to guess what was there. So it's rather sophisticated little analysis that they're doing and putting it together, but that's the next on their effort, a heritage trail around Canby. That's it.
That's great. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Speaking of the Historic Review Board, I also would like to thank those folks that serve on the committee. I did attend the dedication of the Philanderly oak tree, and I wanted to thank them for all their work in getting that designated, as well as the ceremony itself. And whoever ordered up that weather was very, very lucky to have a wonderful day for that event. It was nice. This afternoon, I attended the Canby's Big Night Out Street Dance meeting. We have an expanded area coming this year. It's going to be bigger. We're going to have more activities. We're going to have a game trailer, like a truck is going to bring this trailer in for games for the teen sets. And last year, we did a really good job doing things for the little people. And then we had things for the grown-ups, but that teen-tween set was kind of left out. So we're going to have some more activities for those folks. And we're also talking about some ideas for before the band starts, something that the Lego people are going to be back and doing a Lego competition and that kind of thing. So there's going to be a lot of things for all ages. CTV 5 board meeting is tomorrow, so I have nothing to report on that just yet. First Friday, I believe, starts first Friday of May, right?
Correct.
So May 6th, that is. So first Friday will begin again. Tomorrow, I'm going to the Thriftway. Taste of the Season Spring Edition. So that'll be fun from 3 to 7 tomorrow.
Must attend, mandatory attendance.
Mandatory. Well, yeah, everybody in town goes, right? You have to go. And April 30th will be the restart of the farmers market. So 9 a.m. on April 30th, you can go get your veggies and fruits and plants at the farmers market.
And soap, locally made soap.
And locally made soap, a lot of things. And you already talked about C4. So finally, Sunday morning, I'm serving gravy again.
It's that time. It's that time again.
Auxiliary breakfast, 8:30 to 11 at the American Legion, Post 122. Use the Fur Street entrance. It's available to the public. Adults $6, kids $3, and the auxiliary's making the gravy. That's all I have.
And handicapped accessible, too.
And it is, yes. You can ride the little chair up the stairs.
Which I need to after the gravy.
Wait, no, yeah, you gotta write it down when you eat the gravy, yes. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor, thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. Council President Dowd.
Mr. Mayor, likewise attended the Lee Tree dedication, and my thanks to all those involved for making that happen. That's quite an achievement. And we're joining a very, what would be the word, very august body of communities that have a heritage tree listed. Quite a great story behind it. I did get some jokes about did my family know when the tree was planted, but were you teeing one up for me?
What part did the Dale family have in this?
We probably swung on the tires. Aside from garbage pickup night, what would be the other hot topic on social media this week? Something about. Oh yeah, water. Yeah, we've had some water taste and odor issues here in the past. Actually, started 10, 11 days ago.
Is this your fault?
It's personally not my fault.
All right.
This one is not. Very similar issues to what we've had in the past couple summers with taste and odor in the water. And just to recap the story from past years when we tested the water, we found there's a couple compounds in it that come from algae, particularly algae that dies in the water in the Molalla River, from which every drop of our water comes. The water is 100% safe, and Canby Utility wants me to pass that on tonight to you. It's 100% safe. It's just that those compounds happen to be two compounds to which humans are incredibly sensitive to in both taste and odor. We're not great at detecting most chemicals, but those are two we're really good at. Canby's water is tested ferociously. There's an excellent article in the Canby Herald by our own Daniel Pearson. It's out today. If you get the Herald, read it. If you don't get the Herald, go buy one and read it. It explains the entire process of how testing occurs. But suffice it to say, surface water in Oregon is probably the most heavily tested consumer substance we have, far more so than bottled water or groceries or produce. It's tested by an independent lab, and that independent lab independently reports its results to the state. So the water is safe. It's just doesn't taste or smell so good all the time. Let me assure you, Canby Utility Board and their general manager, Dan Murphy, are all over this. This is a top priority for them. By law, each and every one of us up here and each and every Canby Utility Board member, plus both general managers, are consumers and customers of Canby Utility. So we're right in there all together. And they are working on that. Test results aren't back yet. I think today was the earliest they could possibly come back. But I'm sure that Dan Murphy will let the public know when those are back. And they also are working on solutions. As you might remember from a year ago, our treatment plant is not equipped at all to filter out these two chemical compounds. And the solutions are not cheap nor simple. And the Canby Utility Board takes the cost to ratepayers very, very seriously as they consider solutions. So stay tuned. Canby Utility will have more news for us, but continue to drink the water.
Tim, do you have some tips on remediation at home? We went over that last year.
We did, and it seems to be pretty unanimous. There might be a few exceptions that if you filter your water, if you have a fridge filter or a Brita filter or Pure or the other brands, it does a very good job at filtering that out. Those are just activated carbon filters. And incidentally, that's the way this problem is typically solved world-round, is you install a giant multi-million-dollar Brita filter into your treatment plant. Very expensive, but it's effective for your home. Doesn't always help so much with the shower, but that will help with the taste. So. Any
Lemons.
questions?
Good job.
Thank you, Mr. Mark.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate that. And Canby Utility is on it, and we
You're totally on it.
Well, after their last meeting, I think we were exchanging messages back and forth with Canby Utility Board Chair in the evening, just making sure that everything was squared away and whatnot. And so it is. It's not too different than what we saw last summer. And so the rain that we'll hopefully see over the next couple of days will help with the taste and flavor of the water. So thank you, sir.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Thank you. Yes. Shall I begin?
Yes, you may begin.
All right, so I'll start with the library, per always. So there is this big public comment poster as you enter to the right, and it's filled up with lots of red markings. The whole thing is filled up. It's basically input. What do you want to see in your new library? So there's all kinds of feedback. And Library Director Irene Green is excited to see such great public input. And she noticed that there's a lot of teen programming recommendations. So I thought that was noteworthy. So hopefully with the new library, more teen programming. There is also now on the website something called the value calculator. So the landing page on the website, bottom left, you can actually enter in the types of items that you're checking out: CDs, books, DVDs, etc. And it'll calculate how much it would cost if you bought these items new. So then you can total up and see how much you saved, right? So Irene entered in the data from last year, and the Canby community has saved about $1 million approximately in all of the items that we check out. So that's interesting to add value. I went through with my own family for the month of March, and it was like $291. You know, all these books and CDs. So we're all benefiting greatly.
Cultural past, too.
And very much cultural past. That's a high value. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's neat to see that. Check that out on the website. And along with that, there's an interesting statistic that she shared. We loan out fewer books to our neighboring county libraries than we borrow from them. So in other words, so our book supply is not as maybe attractive or in demand as our neighbors, Wilsonville, Westland, Molalla, et cetera. So that's kind of noteworthy. It's kind of interesting. You know, I like numbers. 69,000 items are how much we loan to other libraries, and we loan from others about 84,000. So curious. So we'll work over time, of course, on weeding and putting the best books we can, the newest books in. Also, Kathy Whiting's been on the board for many years, the library board. She's being termed out at the end of June. She can't serve a third consecutive term, so she'll have to leave, so we'll be looking for another board member there. So anybody interested, apply. It's a good board to serve on. Canby Adult Center, they hosted Good Morning Canby last week, which is a chamber event. Happens, I've never been. It happens, once a month. A local business hosts, maybe 8:30 a.m., I think. Is that in the early morning? And they enjoyed it. I heard from that board that they enjoyed showing off the adult center, and there was a good turnout. And so it's nice to see the nonprofits involved with the small business owners around. School district kindergarten roundup or registration is happening end of April and through early May in the evening. It's all on their websites, but that's important for families with incoming kindergartners. The first day of school, they've approved the school calendar. It's going to start on August 30th this year. So this year was August 31st. We're moving it up a day. So your summer is ending. Children beware. So that's good to keep to put in your calendars in advance. The school district has something called Peach Jar, which is this e-flyer management system, which is beneficial to nonprofits especially. So for free, you can submit something, a flyer or a form that you want to go out to all the families, and there's no photocopying cost to put these flyers in a backpack, or you don't have to be pre-approved by the superintendent's secretary. So in short, the library and the city can benefit from this because we're a nonprofit. We can get library information out to the students over the summer, etc. So that's a nice channel for communication that's been developed. And of course, for-profits can pay and get their information into the parents' inboxes too. And then the Canby Area Recognition of Excellence, the Teacher of the Month, basically. I wanted to just backtrack. I've forgotten a few months. January was Randy Onion, third grade teacher at Caris. February was Carlos Ordaz Cruz. He's a second grade teacher at Trost. He's also a visiting teacher from Mexico this year. And then March was the Resources Education and Community Help Center. It's called REACH, casually. They help homeless students and low-income students around the district. And there's the whole team. The whole department got selected, so that's pretty good for them. Other things, the Lee Oak Tree Assembly, that was fun. Nice
really
job. Good speech making from the mayors, the mayor and Carol Pearson gave a nice speech. It was a great event, well attended. I was proud to be involved in that, or in the audience. Canby Community Auction, they held that a couple weeks ago. That's always a fun community event, so came as an alumni. The French Prairie Forum was today, and that's held at the North Willamette Extension Office, in Aurora. So they updated something. The Oregon Travel Experience Director was there. This sort of applies to Canby, I would say. The rest area, it's called the Southbound French Prairie Rest Area. It's the closest one on I-5 to Canby, if you can imagine. They have this grove of trees. It's been there about 50 years. Apparently Lady Bird Johnson, it was a project she got going. Highway Beautification Act it was. Anyway, some of these trees are in pretty bad shape. After 50 years, some of them are not even alive. And some of them are getting cut into by the fir trees there. Anyway, there's a big project they're undertaking. They're going to be looking for sponsorships to really beautify and clean it up. So they might come ask us to give a resolution at some point and support them. But that's kind of a nice local project that they're working on. Also, that group, they talked about candidates and initiatives that'll be on the primary ballot in May, how that might affect the region. Yeah, that's about all for that. And then Bridging Cultures is starting something yesterday. They started an English language learners class. They're partnering with Clackamas Community College. Apparently like 80 people, 80 English language adults have signed up. There's a waiting list. It's just a great partnership, I think, and there's a huge need, obviously, for adults to learn English. Bridging Cultures is going to serve a meal, provide childcare, and it's just, I'm so impressed that this is happening. It's such a good community partnership, and there's clearly a need for it. Good relationships have been made, I think, in the community, and this is really an evidence of that, I think. So good job for them. And lastly, I have a question. The Hometown Hero Award, I see it. It's on our website. It's like a volunteer appreciation thing. We've never given one out since I've been around. Do you guys, can somebody give me the backstory on that? Like how are people nominated? What's that about?
I have it right here.
Okay.
Because I asked Kim, based on your email to me, I asked Kim about it, so I will get this out to everybody to peruse it and have a look at it, and we can go from there.
Okay.
Does that work?
So it's a community thing. We'll just read it over and talk about it next meeting or something?
Yeah, I think that'd probably be best is to,
We have a minute.
Okay.
yeah, I'll get it out to everyone so that they can take a quick look at it and then determine if that's,
Thank you.
how we want to go about that if the moment so moves us.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Great. That's all? All right, thank you. Councilor Coleman.
Mr. Mayor, I attended a Planning Commission meeting on the 11th, and they approved a request for a site and design variance for the proposed 174-unit Sequoia Grove Apartments, which will be located behind the Fred Meyer. There was the owner of JB Northwest was there, and he voiced his concern over the location of the apartments, given that they operate their JB Northwest 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And he was not able to attend when we discussed that here in council chambers. So one of the concerns he had was a tenant that applies to live there, they need to know up front that they're renting an industrial park, and industrial parks make noise, and that they're not going to be going around and giving the neighbors a hard time that are doing business. And so he was not aware that they have, actually the developer has put that in the language of their leases. In addition to that, the developer has spent quite a bit of time and money in doing decibel sound testing at various times of the day and night, and they have, they're a very experienced developer, and they plan on incorporating a lot of sound deadening in the new construction. And so I think some of the information that the owner of JB Northwest heard, he was happier about, but I think he was just concerned because he said, we like to make noise over there. See, on the traffic safety front, we met on the 11th, and just like to thank the Public Works and the city. There's a whole number of intersections around town that come before us, and one in particular is North 2nd and Elm. There was an auto accident there, and a lady actually came and spoke who was in the accident. And a number of citizens came and voiced their concern, and I just appreciate so much the Rick and Public Works, Mark. They got right out on it. They went out there, took a look, identified some solutions, and I really think that made the people happier about that. So thank you again. Also want to thank Public Works once again. They conducted a traffic count at the intersection of North Ivy and 10th, and there was some concern about the volume of traffic going north and south versus east and west, and I think the count came in, kind of surprised everyone. It was pretty balanced, and so there was a motion made by one of the traffic safety commissioners to approve a four-way stop there, and they voted on it and approved that, so they moved that to the city. We refer that to the city, and also, one of the concerns, before I move on, I know there's some concerns about, putting in stop signs, and because you worry, if a person's not accustomed to stopping there, maybe they'll come up and if no one's around, they'll just move on. And just wanted to point out some of the four-way stops that have actually gone in. One in particular that the traffic safety really endorsed was at Sequoia and Township, and I think that's been a good safety improvement. And then also Grant and 10th, I think that has been another good one. And then one that came in quite some time earlier was at Elm and 13th, where Berg Parkway kind of swings around. And so, and also I had a chance to meet with our newest Traffic Safety Committee applicant, Kurt Oschlager. I hope I said that right. I met with him, with Bob Backstrom and Dan Leichner. Very impressed, and just appreciate his interest in serving, and just appreciate the whole group and the support we get. Gosh, from Public Works, police, fire, city. It's incredible. We have 16 people there this last time. And thank you all once again. And then a couple of shameless plugs. We just can't thank the Kiwanis enough for their generous contribution to the community in general, but also that big donation to the library. And I just want to remind everyone that one of their fundraisers is raffling off a beautiful 2016 Ford Mustang that'll be drawn at the State Fair. And I believe it's in Thriftway at the present time. You can buy tickets and $5 each. And then finally, I'd just like to say thank you to K-Hoop Recycling for the ongoing generosity in helping clean up Canby. I was thinking about it. If you had to put a price on what it would cost for everyone to take all this junk and pay for it at the landfill, it would cost a fortune. And so I would just encourage folks to appreciate them and to not abuse that great privilege we have.
Indeed.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. I appreciate that. Great reports, everyone. In everyone's recaps, there's remiss in a couple of things. Many of you brought up the Philander Lee tree dedication. That was actually a pretty neat event to have package containers. I think almost everyone on shift came out to participate because the tree is right there on their property. But to have the work that the Historical Review Board did to be able to make this happen. And they look at it every year, but not every year they dedicate a tree. And this year's class was a distinguished class of one tree, our tree. So it was pretty neat. And Councilor Parker talked about their work with doing the walking tour piece, and that will be definitely something that will be a highlight on that and as a tourism piece. Two additional things to put on your calendars. Mayor's Prayer Breakfast on May 5th, 6:30 a.m., bright and early. There'll be cuts for donuts and breakfast served, so that'll be at 6:30. And also next week is the Canby Ed Foundation fundraiser. They have a great speaker that's on Thursday, April 28th at the Willamette Valley Country Club. I know we have a budget meeting that evening, unfortunately. But if you can go, I definitely recommend it. They do a great event every year, and it's a good cause. So Canby Ed Foundation, through donations, end up circling back into the schools to provide additional programming, additional equipment. One of the big things that they did over the years was classroom amplification systems. So they've pretty much, I think, outfitted all the school classrooms with this amplification system for the teachers, and Canby Ed spearheaded almost all of that for the schools. So if you can go, support them. If you can't go, they'll gladly take a donation to help with future needs for Canby schools. So that's my bookend. Appreciate that, and we'll move into the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the minutes of the April 6, 2016 council regular meeting, the reappointments of Carol Palmer and Barbara Garber to the Historic Review Board for terms to end on June 30th, 2019, the appointment of Kurt Allschlager to the Traffic Safety Commission.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Good night.
For a term to end on June 30th, 2018, the reappointment of Barbara Rogers to the Traffic Safety Commission for a term to end on June 30th, 2019, and the appointment of Gloria Randolph to the Transit Advisory Committee for a term to end on March 31st, 2018.
Second.
Motion has been made by Council President Dale and seconded by Councilor Hensley to approve the consent agenda. which include the minutes of the April 6, 2016 council regular meeting, reappointments of Carol Palmer and Barbara Garber to the Historic Review Board for terms to end on June 30th, 2019, appointment of Kurt Oschlager to the Traffic Safety Commission for a term to end on June 30th, 2018, reappointment of Barbara Rogers to the Traffic Safety Commission for a term to end on June 30th, 2019, and appointment of Gloria Randolph to the Transit Advisory Committee for a term to end on March 31st, 2018. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That carries 6-0. Next on the agenda is a public hearing tonight to change the Historic Review Board member number. So I have to read the little intro here and we will move into it. So the matter presently before the hearing body requires a public hearing. All interested persons in attendance shall be heard on the matter. If you wish to testify on this matter, please fill out a yellow comment card and give it to the city recorder. At the appropriate time, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and interest in the matter. Those people that are interested in testifying as either proponents or opponents, please indicate your desire to speak by raising your hand at this time. No?
Well, if you want me to,
I would love for you to. That'd be great. For longer presentations, proponents and opponents may buy time from one another. In so doing, those either in favor or opposed may allocate their time to a spokesperson who will represent the entire group. All questions must be directed through the mayor. Any evidence to be considered must be submitted to the hearing body for public access. All written testimony received both for and against shall be summarized by staff and presented briefly to the hearing body during the staff report. The public hearing will be conducted as follows. We'll have the staff report. Questions, if any, by the hearing body or staff. I will open the public hearing for testimony. Proponents will have not more than 3 minutes, and opponents may not more than 3 minutes also. I'll then close the public hearing. There will be questions, if any, by the hearing body, and then we'll have discussion by the hearing body. A decision shall be made by the hearing body at the close of the hearing, or the matter will be continued to a date certain in the future. This will be the only notice of that date you will receive. Does anyone have any questions about the procedures for the hearing? Great. Seeing none, we will move into the staff report.
Which I will provide tonight. I would like to note that Brian Brown was fully prepared to come and present this report tonight, but he has been working so many hours trying to keep up with the applications that have been coming into planning that I spoke with him and gave him the night off. So we'll be covering this for him, and while I will not do the job that he would do, I will try to at least be adequate for you. What you have before you is a proposal to amend the Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 16 of the Land Development and Planning Ordinance. I should note that this matter has gone before the Planning Commission with a recommendation to forward to the City Council with the recommendation for approval and forwarding to the City Council for their final consideration. The action before you would amend Chapter 16.110.025 of Canby Municipal Code, specifically paragraph 2 of that section, and it would amend this section by removing from the language the appointment of 3 to 5 members of the board and instead inserting 7 individuals. So rather than having an either or, a 3-member or a 5-member, and initially there was some discussion about adding an or a 7-member, so you could have had a 3 or a 5 or a 7. After discussion before the Planning Commission and further discussion, the recommendation is to strike the 3 or 5 and indicate only a 7-member commission. This is consistent with action that you have taken relating to other city boards and commissions, and with the exception, I believe, of the library board at this stage. I believe it's the only board that we haven't taken this action, and the library board composition of 5 members is consistent with the practice and pattern that we see in other jurisdictions throughout the state. So it's considered the natural order of things for library boards throughout California. And so staff recommendation is to hear additional testimony and then take action in support. Would also like to acknowledge Carol Palmer, who is in the audience, as you've noted. Acknowledge and express my appreciation to her for her leadership and the work that she has done. She, on behalf of the Historic Board, have also presented a letter of support for this change.
Great. Thank you. Any questions for staff on the report at all?
Nope.
So, okay. Well, then I will open the public hearing for testimony. Anyone that would like to speak for this change? Good evening, Carol. How are you?
Good. As I recall, I have to state my name and my address, right? Carol Palmer, 1646 North Ponderosa Street in Canby. And one of the things that we've discovered is operating with 5 members works when we're all 5 there. But when we're trying to discuss something, if 1 or 2 people are absent, it really has limited our ability to really get a robust conversation going. So one of the ways to sort of attack that is to have a larger board. And we also want to recruit some people from some very specific communities that we think would really add to the board. And when we have no openings and we really don't want to ask anybody to leave the existing board, it really makes it difficult. So specifically, we're really interested in someone from the school district. That's a group that should be a big consumer of what we do. And as a consumer, we would sure like to have somebody from that organization or that system tell us, what their requirements and needs are and what would help them in the education process. Secondly, we would really like to recruit someone from the Hispanic community. As I have understood, it's 20% of the population, fairly underrepresented on all of the boards, and we would love to do some recruitment in that area. But I don't want to go out and start doing that until I know I've got some openings that I can offer people that I'm recruiting. So that is my argument for it.
All right.
Perfect. Any questions for Carol at this point? All right. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you.
You very much. Any other opponents at all to this? Not seeing any. Great. I will close the public hearing. Any questions at all by the hearing body? Comments?
No, I do want to thank Rick, though, for getting the answer to the question I had for you about the library board. I went to Rick with, we are now making this one 7. We just did Bike and Pen making it 7. So if we're going to do this incrementally, let's just make them all 7. And he found out for me that library boards are typically 5, so it will remain as 5. Okay. So thank you for finding that out.
Okay. Great. Any other discussion points at all? All right. Well, then we will move on from there. Thank you, Carol. Appreciate that. We'll move into resolutions and ordinances, and I believe this is our first one.
The first item you have is Ordinance 1435. This is amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 16.110.025 regarding the Historic Review Board Committee for the City of Canby.
Great. We just finished up our public hearing on that regarding changing that from 3 or 5 to a hard 7, which you cannot roll in Vegas. And we'll go with that. So any further comments or questions?
No.
Take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt Ordinance 1435, amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 16.110.025 regarding the Historic Review Board Committee for the City of Canby.
Second.
Motion has been made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Puckett to approve Ordinance 1435, amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 16.110.025 regarding the Historic Review Board Committee for the City of Canby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 6-0.
The next item we have is Ordinance 1436. This is authorizing a contract with Eagle Elsner, Inc. in the amount of $684,476 with authorization to expand the scope to an amount not to exceed $700,000 for construction of the 2016 street maintenance program and declaring an emergency. And this is before you for second reading.
Great. Thank you, Kim. So this is just, again, we did this the last meeting for the first reading. Again, it's the contract to do the, to execute the street maintenance for the year. And we've got the latitude to go to 700 if need be, and if there's further repairs that need to be done. Any other input on that at all, Rick?
Sixing.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt ordinance number 1436, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and the city administrator to execute a contract with Eagle Elsner, Inc. in the amount of $684,476 with authorization to expand the work scope to an amount not to exceed $700,000 for construction of the 2016 street maintenance program and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Coleman, seconded by Councilor Hensley to approve ordinance 1436, authorizing a contract with Eagle Elsner, Inc. in the amount of $684,476 with authorization to expand the scope to an amount not to exceed $700,000 for construction of the 2016 street maintenance program and declaring an emergency. Roll call vote.
Counselor Rocha?
Yes.
Counselor Parker?
Yes.
Counselor Hensley?
Yes.
Counselor Dale?
Aye.
Counselor Height?
Aye.
Counselor Coleman?
Yes.
Carries 6-0. Thank you.
The next item we have is ordinance 1437. This is amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 2.20.070 regarding the public library.
Great. Thank you.
And as you recall, this adds just very limited language at the end of 2.20.070. The language specifically is, and expended only in accordance with the terms and conditions of the bequest to ensure that all funds that are contributed to the library are spent in the library in a manner consistent with the donor's request.
Thank you very much. Any questions regarding that? Okay. Motion, please.
I'll make a motion. I move that we adopt ordinance number 1437, an ordinance amending the Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 2.20.070, regarding the public library.
Thank you. Second, please.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Height and seconded by Councilor Rocha to approve ordinance 1437, amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 2.20.070, regarding the public library, up for second reading and a roll call vote.
Counselor Rocha?
Yes.
Counselor Parker?
Yes.
Counselor Hensley? Yes. Counselor Dale?
Aye.
Counselor Height?
Aye.
Counselor Coleman?
Carries 6-0.
The next item is ordinance 1438. This is authorizing the city of Canby to enter into a purchase and sale agreement with Pioneer Property LLC for the purchase of real property. And this is also before you for second reading.
Great. And this one, again, we heard our last meeting, and it's for us to move forward with the purchasing of property behind our current Canby area transit offices to event for one currently to be the bus storage area, keep that for us, and then for future expansion of CAT offices as the funds become available to do so, and have our own building and not pay a lease.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt ordinance 1438, an ordinance authorizing the city of Canby to enter into a purchase and sale agreement with Pioneer Property LLC for the purchase of real property.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you.
I thought you were seconding it.
No, I can't second.
I know,
I was
that's why I was
asking
like,
for it, you know? Motion's been made by Councilor Hensley, seconded by Councilor Height, to approve ordinance 1438, authorizing the city of Canby to enter into a purchase and sale agreement with Pioneer Property LLC for the purchase of real property. Second reading and roll call vote.
Counselor Rocha?
Aye.
Counselor Parker?
Yes.
Counselor Hensley?
Aye.
Counselor Dale?
Aye.
Counselor Height?
Aye.
Counselor Coleman?
Yes.
Carries 6-0. Thank you.
The next item we have is ordinance 1439. This is authorizing a contract with Herd Farms for wastewater sludge removal.
This is an annual contract that we've been doing the last 3 or 4 years, I believe. I believe it predates me. The price will be $57 per ton with an annualized limit of $149,000. We know this will be significantly less than that if our prior year patterns are consistent with what we see over the next 12 months. We do have a price guarantee for the next 2 fiscal years, however, so we have an assurance that for the 2017-18 fiscal year, the price per ton will remain at $57 a ton.
Great.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt ordinance 1439, ordinance authorizing the city of Canby to enter into a contract with Herd Farms for wastewater sludge removal.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Hensley, seconded by Councilor Roaches to approve ordinance 1439, authorizing contract with Herd Farms for wastewater sludge removal. Any question or discussion? Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 6-0.
The last item we have is ordinance 1440. This is authorizing a contract with Curran McLeod Inc., consulting engineers for engineering services to complete improvements to the wastewater treatment facility for sludge storage and conditioning, transferring budget appropriations, and declaring an emergency. And our Public Works Director, Mark, is here to present this item. Hi, Mark.
This is number 2.
Good evening. Yes.
See, I thought you were here for the road thing.
Yeah.
Turns out so much more than that.
Yeah, so much more. As you just heard, we have a contract with Herd Farms to haul our sludge, so we have to have a place to store it as well. As part of the 2013 CIP list that we've had, that we put together, this project is just an extension of that list, or as a part of that list. So we're seeing the fruition of that come together. We are right now in the middle of building the storage facility for the sludge. This is a wet sludge holding facility and conditioning facility that we would put in place. We need to get started on the engineering so that we can move into that phase as quickly as we can into the next budget year. So.
Just for clarification for the audience, CIP is our capital improvement plan.
Sorry.
You're okay, Mark, because I believe it was a couple years ago, we have found that we know the vernacular, but many at home don't. So, we've started enunciating and lengthening our acronyms out. So you're totally okay. So yes,
We try to make this an acronym
free zone.
It's not an anachronism free zone.
That's funny. That's good. Anachronism. So,
Thank you for helping.
Mark and Rick, so a couple years back we tried to do the sludge dryer, and through much gnashing of teeth and whatnot, that project didn't quite come to fruition. Where are we at with that technology and the ability to do that so that we aren't having to haul? Is this just
The
back to being a
foreseeable
pipe
future
dream?
will be hauling.
Okay.
And it just, what we had tried was, I think, mixing lime and doing a dryer, and there were a number of steps, and we invested significant amount of money into a process that we had some assurance would be successful, and it wasn't. Not only was it not successful in controlling the odors, which was a primary reason for implementing that technology, but it wasn't successful in improving the way we handle and remediate the biosolids, the sludge that remains after we treat the water for release into the Willamette River. And what we're doing here is we're just creating essentially what amounts to temporary storage until the product can be moved. The good news, and if you read part of the staff report and you've seen, or maybe it's in the budget, I've been looking at too many numbers lately, but you will see that, and my apologies, I'm a little off on this one, you will see that the costs that we had estimated for the 2016-17 fiscal year are significantly less in our budget than they were in the original estimate, because some of the improvements that were made over the last 2 years to handle the odors and the way that the odors were transmitted into the air and affected golf courses nearby actually acted to improve significantly the air quality in the area. And so I would anticipate that you've had fewer calls over the last year, and that you will continue to have fewer calls in the years ahead as a result of the technology that was put in place. I won't say it wasn't completely by design that we had these improvements, but it was expected to be just kind of just a step in the right direction and not the complete solution. It's proved to be a much greater solution than we'd anticipated initially to put in the air handling processes, which I don't know if you remember last year when we talked about it, what we're doing is we're exhausting the fumes up into the second layer of air, and it moves it over the top of people, and then so the odors dissipate before reaching ground level, and so they're not affecting people to the same degree that they have traditionally.
And just as the technology that you spoke of drying is still out there and that's still being worked on. And this project doesn't incorporate that yet, but at some point in time it could dovetail into that if that product were to become a better product than it is right now. So it doesn't take the place, but it definitely could dovetail into a better situation for that. So.
And this is the engineering portion only.
Yes,
right.
Question.
Yes.
Once it's dried, though, doesn't it still need to be hauled away somewhere?
Presumably it's sold as fertilizer.
Correct.
Okay.
It becomes there's classes of sludge, Class A, Class B, Class C. Once you dry it, it becomes a Class A sludge or Class A product, which then has no bacterial issues, and so you can use it it can be used as a fertilizer, but
So you can make money off of it then? I mean, you sell it?
It's hard to find a market for it.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
But in theory, yes, you can. There are some applications for the dried material, but it's difficult to find a market for it.
And that's exactly why it's very hard to find a market for that. So yeah, it would be hauled away, but it would be hauled away at there's so much less of it when you dry it that it's
Less expensive to haul. Are we done talking about poop now?
It is interesting to watch you guys squirm over the topic.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt Ordinance 1440, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city administrator to execute a contract with Kern McLeod Incorporated Consulting Engineers for engineering services to complete improvements to the wastewater treatment facility for sludge storage and conditioning, transferring budget appropriations, and declaring an emergency.
Second. May I have your tablet, Counselor?
I even made it big.
I appreciate it.
That and my glasses, I was able to read.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Motion's been made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Parker to approve ordinance number 1440. An ordinance authorizing the mayor and city administrator to execute a contract with Kern McLeod Incorporated Consulting Engineers for engineering services to complete improvements to the wastewater treatment facility for sludge storage and conditioning, transferring budget appropriations, and declaring an emergency. Any other discussion, question?
I think we've got it covered.
Yeah, we got that. Anything? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, passes 6-0. Thank you. Thank you, Kim. Nothing on the new business front? Rick, anything on the city administrator business and staff reports?
I would just like to point out, if I could, that it is somewhat difficult to be politically correct when talking about wastewater.
That's true.
You did a fine job. We're
Did a very good job. Sludge.
Yes.
Use as material.
Material.
Pronouns, yes.
I would remind you that we do have a retreat on the 29th. It will be at Pepe's. Should be, I think, a productive day, and I would also like to report that we're continuing to make good progress in our library civic project. We don't have any big surprises. The project is moving along well. The construction team made up of the architect, construction manager, and general contractor and city staff are all working very well together, and so we're seeing great progress.
It looks like it's happening very fast, but maybe that's this phase of construction where the outside is changing a lot every day.
It actually is happening really fast. This is probably the busiest time because you have the greatest number of trades working simultaneously. And our contractor in residence can speak to that if he'd like to. But we've got the masons working, we've got the electricians working, we've got the plumbers working, we've got the mechanical guys working, we still have framers working in the building, we've got the sheetrockers starting to hang sheetrock, we've got some, there's just a whole lot going on all at once. We could have 25 or 30 people working simultaneously on the building in different areas on any given day, and it's been that way for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and will be that way for the next several weeks.
Wow. No, perfect. Thank you for that, Rick. Any other news? No. All right. Second opportunity for citizen input. Bob, anything for us tonight? No? Action review. Kim.
You have approved the consent agenda. You've adopted ordinances 1436, 1437, and 1438, and you've approved ordinances 1435, 1439, 1440 to come up for second reading on May 4th.
Excellent. Thank you. Joe, do we have an exec session this evening?
We do not.
Okay.
Excellent.
Perfect.
All right, you're popular tonight.
We like you today,
And
Joe.
I will take a motion to adjourn. Motion's been made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Rocha to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Good night, Canby. Thank you very much.
Non-debatable motion.